My brother's two sons somehow turned out to be all right conservatives. They literally say they're better than black people and are more deserving of going to college. My brother told them if they can't recognize their privilege they can figure out how to pay for college. Plus update. My brother doesn't use Reddit, so I thought I'd try and get some advice for him. These kids were always a bit odd and awkward, but we always just chalked that up to being kids. We are all very close. I see them twice a week about. I live in Oakland, and they live about 10 minutes east of Oakland, which is a very white suburb. The boys said there's 5 black people at their school, and they were all recruited to play sports there, and they both play football and are teammates with a few of them. But it's not like we live in the South or anything. They literally repeat shit you see on 4chan, are all about QAnon, and start arguments anytime they can. I remember being a teenage boy and loved pushing buttons, but they will say the most misogynistic, homophobic, racist stuff, and then when I try to talk to them about it they call me a liberal snowflake. I try to approach it by asking questions and guiding their thought process, saying how would you feel if XYZ, and they say I wouldn't care because I would just work hard or I wouldn't whine about it. I've obviously talked to my brother about this privately, and he's just at his wit's end. I suggested he force them to volunteer in Oakland or something like that and try to show them how normal people of less privilege are. I've always thought if you get exposed to the group you are adverse to, you'll realize how similar you both are. My brother finally snapped and asked them why they get to go to college and not all the kids at Oakland Tech, and they literally said they're better than them and it's proven to be such, and they deserve to go to college more because affirmative action is bullshit. Mind you, they both get mostly C's and a few B's. My brother acted out of impulse and told them they can find their own way to pay for college but is sticking to his guns, and now the boys won't talk to him, and have told me they blame black people for getting their dad to think this way. I'm shocked by their behavior, but feel my brother's decision will just push them further down this path. It's okay for them to be Republican. Hell, if they were just Trump supporters I feel like they could make it work to just avoid certain conversations. But it feels like they're steps away from becoming Nazis. Any advice? Update. Genuine advice. I got so many DMs after the comments were locked with specific YouTube videos to show my brother and his kids, and it's really heartwarming knowing people have been through something similar and have made it out the other end. This is an interesting situation for me to be in, because they are family and very close, but it is obviously my brother's and his wife's decision, and I'm just here to support it. I showed them every comment and we were just talking about everything in their backyard Thursday night. I was surprised by my brother saying I'm not backing down, but we need to make sure they don't feel completely cut off. We need to treat them normally, tell them we love them, reinforce positive behavior, eat dinners as a family, etc., etc. There were a few comments suggesting that punishment will only reinforce their belief that they are the victims of this situation, and we discussed how important it is for them to still feel loved and supported. And then we decided I would take them backpacking just to get some space between them and their parents. I didn't have any big speech or anything planned. I wanted to go into it letting them initiate the conversation, and me just listening and asking questions, so that's what I did. We did a 2-night trip up in Tahoe along the PCT. It was nice enough weather-wise but got really cold Friday night. Luckily we were able to stumble upon one of the Sierra Club huts, so we had great shelter. But I think it toughened them up a little bit, and I was pleasantly surprised by their resilience. The boys were really grumpy and didn't talk at all on the drive up, and it was pretty quiet for the first mile or so, and then they just started talking. The younger one just said, "Do you really think Dad was being serious?" And I just responded, "I'm not entirely sure, but ultimately it's up to him. Why do you ask? Do you think that's fair?" They started complaining about how it wasn't fair, and how he's just been tricked by the leftist media, and I just kept asking them why they thought that, and was trying just to get them to say the stuff they were thinking out loud with hopes that they would hear how crazy it sounds. We got to the lake on day 2, and it was a much better day. They really felt like the kids I watched growing up, and they started reminiscing over past family trips in school before COVID. We talked about sports, girls, everything. I was careful, but I tried to thread in points about racism and privilege to what we were talking about, like with their black teammates on the football team, and I asked them what they had to go through at their school, and what they've overcome. Turns out one of the kids has gone through some major shit that he shared with the football team, and I honestly feel like I got them to empathize. We talked about politics too, and I stressed to them that there's nothing wrong with being Republican, but you have formed your own ideas about things instead of repeating what talking heads say. I asked them about their social studies classes, and it really feels like they're trying to be contrarians because they love to argue, and they said they get into arguments all the time in class. All in all, I just wanted them to feel like they weren't being abandoned, and my goal was just to listen because it was my fear that they felt they weren't being heard and would then lash out. We got home yesterday afternoon, and their parents made them a big lunch, and we all ate together, talked about the trip, and laughed together. Toward the end of the meal, their dad got more serious and talked about last week. He said something to the tune of, "I want you to know that we love you very much and always will. We're proud of so many things that you have done. But we need to be clear that this racist and hateful behavior is not okay." He then said that they are both getting jobs as soon as possible, and their dad is letting them put that money into their own checking accounts, and then he has separate accounts set up for their education, and told them that he will match each dollar they put in the education account, and if there's any left over at the end of college, it's theirs to do with what they please. The parents will still feed them and buy them clothes, but everything else including gas and auto insurance is on them. The boys were annoyed by this obviously, but they seemed relieved that they weren't going to have to pay for all of their own college. Additionally, he asked them, how much screen time per day do they think is reasonable? They said 2 hours, and their dad said, maybe 1 day, but let's find a middle ground. And they agreed on 1 hour a day after their homework, sports and jobs were completed, and they could only use devices in common areas of the house. After the hour they're going to show mom or dad what they watched or played, He also told them they were getting flip phones, and if they wanted an iPhone again they could pay for it themselves. Me and my brother discussed a few of the comments that were kind enough to shed light on forcing them to volunteer, and we heard you. The last stipulation was that they are going to volunteer with a charity of their choice once a month, doesn't have to be in Oakland, or to do with POC, and they would be the ones to reach out and set it up. All in all, I think this weekend was a success. The boys are mad, but it feels like they're overwhelmed with this new sense of responsibility, which I think is a good thing because it means they're taking this seriously. Now it's on their parents to keep up with it and enforce everything. We are asking around to see if any of our friends know a reformed racist person to talk to them, but I think we might wait to see how this plays out a little bit.